What's going on, guys? InkedDadVlogs bringing this video today. We are on Vlogmas episode 3 and we are doing our mental health video. We've had this planned for a while, so we're just going to jump straight into it. Joined by my lovely wife. So yeah, we'll jump straight into it. So we're going to start off by explaining what bipolar is. I think I'll let you explain this since you have the diagnosis.
So, well, first of all, we should probably explain that I have bipolar
because
you guys didn't know that, but you do now. That's basically why we thought we'd do a mental health video, because we have personal experience with it. Hopefully this can help people. Hopefully, you never know. Even if it helps one person, you know, that's a good thing. To cut a long story short, basically, I've had bipolar diagnosis for just over a year now. November 2019 I got diagnosed, but we'll go into that later in the lead up to that and stuff. But in a nutshell, bipolar is a type of mental illness. There are obviously hundreds of types of mental illness. Depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, borderline. Like, there's so many that we don't have the time to go through all of them. But obviously we'll go through bipolar because we have experience with that personally. Bipolar is like any other mental illness. First of all, it's not a choice. It's not something that you choose to have or something that you've chose to do to yourself. It is a chemical imbalance in your brain. You cannot help it. You are not to blame. Let's just make that absolutely 100% clear. Because a lot of the time when you have a mental illness, whether it's something like bipolar, whether it's depression, whether it is anxiety, a lot of the time you do feel like, oh, it's my fault, I brought it on myself. It's not. 100% it's not, is it? No. It's, you know, you can't help it. There is an imbalance in your brain. Brain scans will show you can see different colours in your brain scans to show that your brain is hardwired different to someone else's. So it's unfortunately just something that can't be helped. We'll put a link on later for the Mind website, the Mind charity, because that's got a really good section on it about bipolar, specifically about the symptoms, stuff like that. But in a nutshell, so this video kind of makes sense, there's 3 types of bipolar. You have bipolar 1, bipolar 2 and cyclothymia. So bipolar 1 is basically, it tends to be more of the manic side. So bipolar itself as a whole is, you have switches between your moods. You can experience mania, you can experience depression. So it is 0 to 100 basically. Bipolar 1 tends to be more of the manic side. If you're having a lot of manic episodes, you can have depressive episodes, but they're not as common. Bipolar 2 is when it's a mixture of the two. You're pretty much equal in the amount you have of each sort of episode. And then cyclothymia is an interesting one, because cyclothymia is basically, it is bipolar, but it's a less severe form of bipolar. A lot of people struggle if they get a cyclothymic diagnosis, because the way it's described by some people is that your mood swings and your feelings and your thoughts aren't severe enough to be bipolar, and it can kind of make you feel a bit rubbish about it, thinking, oh well, you know, I'm not that ill then. But it's not the case at all. It's just a case of, you know, there can be a slightly less of a difference in your mood sort of thing. It can, rather than being so depressed that you don't want to leave the house for weeks on end, and then all of a sudden you want to go out and you want to be the most popular person, or you want to spend loads of money. It can be, you know, less of a gap between those 2 points. That's kind of what cyclothymia is, but all 3 of those are bipolar, regardless of kind of what your specific symptoms are, basically.
Knocked the nail on the head. So the next thing we're gonna sort of go through is the explanation of, so the next thing we're going to go through is on the actual day of when Georgia got diagnosed with bipolar. So I'll start this one off.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously we went in, saw the psychiatrist and everything like that.
Yeah.
He done asked all the questions.
Mm-hmm.
I sat there. Me and him became like best buds.
Yep.
Dr. Daniel, shout out to you. So yeah, we was in there for like what, half hour, 45 minutes?
Yeah, the first one was, yeah.
That, and when obviously I didn't really say much in there. I just sort of sat back and sat there. It was all down to Dr. Daniel and Georgia talking. So when we came out, it was mixed emotions really from me, because at the beginning I was like, okay, we've got a diagnosis, we can work with this, it's not the end of the world. But then at the same time, I didn't know how to sort of process it, because I wasn't thinking about the up moments and the down moments, or how hard they were both going to be. So I didn't really take the time myself to get to grips with it. I'm a very easygoing person.
Yeah, nothing really phases you.
Nothing phases me. So I just thought, all right, I can deal with this. We'll get on with it. So yeah, then that was really it for me. I just grabbed the life by the balls and carried on. But I think with Georgia it's a little bit different. So I'll let Georgia explain on how she came to cope with it and how the day went and stuff like that.
It was quite a nerve-wracking day, because obviously I in particular, I literally had no idea that bipolar was even on the cards for me. I've had about 8 years now of depression and anxiety. Always thought there was something more there, but obviously when you're told to try different coping mechanisms and you're not given a diagnosis, you just think, oh well, yeah, no, it's obviously not that serious, obviously in my head. So it was a nerve-wracking day, because obviously I wanted answers, but I was kind of scared of what they were going to be. So yeah, like Kirk said, it was kind of me and the psychiatrist talking a lot. It's important to say, you don't have to have someone with you like I did with Kirk. You can go into that appointment by yourself if you want to. For me personally, and we'll go on to this later, one of my coping mechanisms is Kirk, literally is him, having him as the support for me. So it was important for me that he was there, even if he didn't say anything at all in the appointment. It was important that he was sat there, sort of thing. So so we went through a lot of questions. He asked me kind of what's been going on the last sort of 8 years. A lot of stuff got brought up, a lot of things that have happened in the past, a lot of different things we've experienced together before we were together, because obviously we've only been together about 3.5 years, coming up to 4 years now.
Come on, we're already married and got 2 kids.
One on the way.
One's very due.
But yeah, so it was, and I was nervous about talking about my past in front of Kirk as well, because obviously I had told you a lot of stuff that has gone on, pretty much most things, but there is stuff that kind of you do keep to yourself, just naturally. It's just what we do as humans. We don't tell everyone everything. So a lot of stuff came out, and then right near the end, that's where he said, well, we're looking at bipolar, didn't he? So that's when I got diagnosed, and following on from explaining what bipolar is, initial diagnosis was bipolar 2 for me. So it was the kind of equal sides of mania and depression. So basically he looked back on, he kind of diagnosed the bipolar, and then to get to the specific bipolar 2 part, he looked at sort of the last year in particular to see kind of how many episodes I'd had to each way, and sort of 3 or 4 depressive, 4 or 5 manic, so it's pretty even scale there with it. So yeah, that's how I got diagnosed. obviously a way that they kind of look into what to diagnose you with, what side of bipolar to diagnose you with, is they look at specific triggers. So there is so many different triggers that can affect different people. So one side of the manic side of bipolar is money and financial side of it. For me in particular, that is a trigger. For some other people with bipolar, that might not be anything at all. Money might not even come into the equation, but for me in particular, it is a big thing. We won't go into massive detail, but it's just a case of things like going out and spending money when you don't really have the money to spend, not thinking about what you're spending it on, just excessively buying things that you don't need.
I just want to add one thing moving, like added on to the whole financial side of it. I think since you've come to grips with your bipolar and the financial side of things, our finances have been a lot more stable.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
So in a way, it's kind of good that you have it as a trigger.
Yeah.
Because
makes us that much more careful. Yeah.
So now we can spend a little bit of money when we've got it.
Yeah.
Because we know we break down it.
Yeah.
Well, I say we.
I do the maths.
George does all the financial side of things.
Whether that's a good thing or not.
But it's been a lot better since the diagnosis and coming to terms with it.
Yeah.
And having it as a trigger, because you can.
It's made things a lot more comfortable, hasn't it? Like when we first got together, we were living pretty much pay to pay, whereas now we pay our bills, and then, don't get me wrong, we're not kind of going out and buying Ferraris and everything left, right and centre, but we have enough money that we think...
Like if we wanted to go out for the day.
Yeah, let's take Lily to the zoo today. We've got the money to do that, and we don't really have to second guess it. We can just kind of go and do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one kind of trigger to look out for. There are other triggers. Aggression can be a big trigger for people. Again, that is one of mine in particular. Ignore his face. That's one of mine in particular. Is that's kind of how we know if I'm about to have an episode. I tend to get very agitated. Like, full disclaimer, never physical violence, can I make that very clear? But it's just a case of just being more agitated. Like, I can get really, really snappy with how I speak to people. Not aggressive or anything like that, but I can kind of flip the switch very quickly, and like just little things like if Kirk's not done the hoovering properly, it will send me absolutely bonkers. And
well, for example, the other day, Lily spilled out her crisps.
Don't even.
I went to hoover it up, didn't do it right, so George ended up hoovering the whole house.
Yeah.
So
yeah, literally.
But yeah, it's just one of those things that if you get a handle on it, you can control it.
Yeah, if you know what to look out for, and it's about having honesty with each other as well. Like, since we've had the diagnosis and we've researched it to the absolute bone, haven't we?
Yeah.
So we know pretty much everything we're looking out for. But it's a case of, obviously, before we knew, if I would start to get a little bit snappy or a little agitated,
then I'd snap back.
Yeah, Kirk would snap back, or Kirk would be like, oh, it's our time of the month, something like that. But now it's a case of, we've had the discussion where we've sat down and we've said, right, if I start to snap,
put me in a room.
You need to tell me that I'm doing it so I can focus my energy into something else. And that's what we do. If I start to get snappy, I will find something to do, whether it's going and sitting in a different room for half an hour, just having half an hour to myself to, bring myself back down to kind of normal. Yeah. Just, it's about diffusing, learning how you can diffuse a situation yourself, sort of, and what works for you, because what works for me won't work for everybody, and sort of vice versa. Obviously, triggers on the other side of things, on the depressive side, there is hundreds. It can be a case of, not wanting to leave the house. It can be a case of cancelling plans. So, obviously, there are so many different resources out there online, at your local doctor's surgery and hospitals. There's so many things that you can
It's even
do.
People you can text now.
Yeah, you can text Samaritans.
If you don't want to speak on the phone and express, I'm pretty sure that is a Samaritan, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a Samaritan.
You can simply just text them and they'll talk to you through text.
Yeah.
So I'll leave all the links down below for anyone that, you know, maybe watching this and wants a little bit of support.
Yeah. But that's the thing, this video isn't just for those people. This video is if you're worried about someone, if you've got a friend, family member, or someone you work with, anything, if they just seem maybe a little bit more quiet than usual, you know, they might be having a down day, but there's no harm in just saying, are you okay? You know, how are you feeling today? And sometimes it is just as simple as saying to someone, how are you feeling today? And that can be the one thing that someone needs to think, do you know what, actually this isn't the first day like this is a reoccurrence. I'm really not okay and I need help. And it's just about kind of, you know, having that support in place, isn't it? And about checking on people. You know, you don't have to spend hours out of your day worrying about constantly texting someone, because trust me, if you were to constantly text me, I'd throw my phone out the window. I don't know where my phone is half the time. I mean, it's there right now, but normally I don't know where my phone is. But, you know, just kind of, if you are worried about someone, just drop them a message to see how they are. If you're finding that friends are cancelling plans a lot, that's another thing to look out for. Is there a reason why they're cancelling plans? Maybe they just don't want to be a friend. Who knows? But, well, you never know. But maybe it is something more serious. You know, but there is a lot of things to look out for with that side of things, isn't there?
There is. So, me and Georgia have got an index of different links and phone numbers and people you can contact. I'll leave them down below. But I just want to put this thing out there because I've suffered with a bit of depression, and I just want to try and say that this whole thing around the whole stigma around men, I don't think there's enough people out there like preaching it. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. If you need support, there's always someone to talk to, isn't there?
100%, yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you're 50, 20, however old you are, there's always going to be someone you can talk to. If it's friends, family, Samaritans, literally anyone, there's people you can talk to. So that's what we're going to cover. If there's anything you want to know, we aren't shy. So yeah, if there's anything, just leave it in the comments below and we'll get back to you. We've got a whole different video planned for episode 4.
Oh, let me just add that obviously if there is anything you want to know, then like Kirk said, ask away. If there's anything about like my personal journey, I am not shy. I will literally speak to everybody and anybody about,
it's more like
how I got here, whatever, or if you've got questions about kind of who you can contact, we'll answer them as well. Literally any question at all, as long as it's not rude, is good.
Yeah, so obviously we're kind of taking every day as it comes at the minute, because someone is due very soon. Bipolar
and pregnancy is a whole nother story. We haven't got enough time for that.
That'll be for like another video.
If you've got a question about that, drop it and I will personally like message you about it, because that's just another.
So yeah, we're taking every day as it comes at the minute, because we're not really sure when our son's going to be born. So you're 37 and 5?
5, yeah. So he's been ready for 5 days now.
So he's been ready. You've had a few things. I'm not going to go into all the
Still not vacated the premises.
Not going to go into all the nitty gritty details, but we know he's ready. It's just a waiting game. So we're just taking every day as it comes. We're not really doing much. George is
staying pretty close to home.
George is getting a daily exercise to try and get him moving. So that's all that matters. But yeah, until the next one, we'll see you on episode 4, which is tomorrow. As always, I appreciate everyone.